Mackenzie apparently doesn't like my dancing.
Oh, should I set a 10-minute timer because we only have 20?
Yeah, I think we should though because, yeah, it's too hard to download if it gets too long. So there's a whole thing, you know. There are numerous eyewitness accounts of the maiming and mutilation of victims. The catalogs of horrors includes the disemboweling of pregnant women, the slamming of babies' heads against brick walls, the cutting off victims' limbs and genitalia, and the displays of heads and corpses. While previous communal riots had been deadly, the scale and level of brutality was unprecedented. Although some scholars question the use of the term genocide with respect to the partition massacres, that's I guess what they call them, much of the violence was manifested as having genocidal tendencies. It was designed to cleanse an existing generation as well as prevent for future reproduction, as in whom? They didn't want Muslims to reproduce, and they didn't want Hindus to reproduce. So I guess that's what they called it. Where was it? Partition massacres. Awful. Awful. Huh?
I don't get the point of religious war.
You want to know why I'm not religious? You know how many millions and billions of people have been killed in all of time over religion? Go ahead. And then he's assassinated. Go ahead. Are you strong enough to fight without violence? I was, and I beat the strongest empire in the world. He did. That's why Gandhi's famous. Who left? Because of him. Because of the boycotting, because of the non-cooperation movements, right? Those are all EBD. Because of all of that, they finally really did leave. Because of Gandhi. And then after that time, there's still violence because there's still Muslims in India and Hindus. And then still today, Pakistan, India, terrible conflicts. That is also possible to become a big war again. Go ahead. Good luck with your 21st century. Like, I'll be Audi 2000. Go ahead. Oh, go back. Kashmir. Go ahead. Can I see the map? There you go. Kashmir, I think they're showing us. No, it's here. No, it's not.
That's cool.
You may look it up for you.
I'm in the wrong freaking place. It's up here. It's up there. So what the problem is with Kashmir? Yeah, you can look up. The problem with Kashmir is entirely Muslim. But guess who got it as a state? It's horrifically violent. It's entirely Muslim, but it became part of what? What would make it be bad? No. India. India got it. Kashmir is officially part of India, but why is Kashmir like, no, we don't want to be part of India? Because what did I just tell they are? We're Muslim. Do you understand? Like, why did Kashmir become part of India? And of course, what does Kashmir want? How about screw you? How about screw you?
It's right above the northern tip of that.
I know. I just happened to be in the Middle East like Paula. I was listening to Paula. It's my fault. She made me go to the Middle East. So it's just a little bit, but guess, of course, what they would want to be now? They're like, screw all of you. What do they want?
Their own independence.
Just independence.
I think they were.
Just independence, are they? Look it up. See if it is. It's violent. It's bad. Okay, so decolonization in Africa. It's almost all like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. African independence. So with Africa, you guys, you have to like choose a couple, right? Choose a couple, but just know that they're representative of what? The entire continent. They're representative of the entire continent. Jomo Kenyatta is a significant one. The battle for Algiers, I told you, it happened in 1962 when I was born, the battle for Algeria. Because again, I'm not quite sure when Algeria was taken. I guess 1890s, it's a scramble for Africa. So Algeria was during that time, was taken over by the French. So white people, it became a colonized state. So a colony, people moved there. French people moved there to live there. Of course, what parts did they take? Just like Kenya. The most beautiful, the most lovely, the best agricultural, the very nicest places. And so when they were being told to leave, white people are like, we've literally been here for generations. I was born and raised here. That's why in Indochina and in Algeria and in Kenya, a lot of the white people didn't want to leave, certainly in South Africa for 500 years, right? That people didn't want to leave because they're like, I've literally been here my whole life, so were my parents, so my grandparents, everybody else. So know the most significant ones. Algeria is significant because, again, what I say about the French leaving. Always violent. Never would relinquish it and be like, okay, fine, you can have it back. The British were much more likely to do that. And then the relationship with Britain and their former colonies today, what? Is much more, not good, but, you know, way better than what the French is. So you just have to know that they were all the same. And again, what's happening? What is happening in all of Latin America, all in Africa and everything else? Strong arm diplomacy, which means what?
One leader.
Except they always end up with what? This one took over, and now what?
Another one.
Bullet to the back of the head, and then what? A new one, right? Okay, why am I putting my club down? African discontent over imperial conditions fueled the movement. Working conditions, brutality of Europeans, notions of racial superiority. This is, South Africa. What's the word you must know? South Africa.
Or
How do you say that? Apartheid. You don't say the no apartheid. Do you know how to say it in your mom's language?
No.
Yeah. Apartheid, separation, and terrible. Go ahead. This is one of the most extreme places with South Africa. 5 Pan-African conferences were held between the world wars led by W.B. Du Bois of the United States and then this person. They want what? Pan-Africa. What are they trying to do? Let's unite Africa, like Simon Bolivar, remember Jose de San Martin, where? In Latin America. Like if we unite Africa, what? We literally will never ever be able to be taken over. What are the US and Britain and European countries, what? Always what? Where's the CIA? Absolutely, and they're making sure what? That nobody gets strong enough and powerful enough to let that be colonized. Go ahead. They made little progress towards independence until the 5th Congress in 1945. Europe could no longer afford colonies. Mostly people left because Britain and France were absolutely broke and their countries were destroyed. And they had to rebuild their countries and they couldn't afford to keep these colonies. They'd already done what with all of the raw materials and the resources? They've been pillaging them for 70 years. Meaning what? All of the easy picking stuff is already been picked. Who knows about the famous museum disputes in France and Britain? Museums.
The British Museum has all of these like artifacts and stuff from all the places they colonized, and people want it back.
That's right. Now the people that have been colonized are like, it literally says Yoruba mask. From Yoruba. Yoruba. Hi, that's us. Give us our stuff. Give us our stuff back. You're literally even telling them that this came from this part of Africa. And which means it's ours. The only reason you have it is because you stole it. What's the most famous thing? The crown jewel. The most famous, largest, biggest crown jewel in the physical crown, what? It came from India. It came from India. It came from the Mughal dynasty. And before that, I think Delhi Sultanate. Anyway, it's not theirs. It's not theirs. Nobody found that big old diamond in England. Britain and France hoped to maintain profitable economic ties with former African colonies. They invested in infrastructure and education. We know that part. What did they do with the infrastructure? Raped, robbed, and pillaged. The economies remained weak and dependent on former mother countries, producing raw materials and cash crops. Even later, still having to send that stuff. Ghana, formerly the Gold Coast, became the first independent black African country led by Nkrumah. Nkrumah, this one, Ghana, is a good one to know. He's the most famous guy. He's the most famous. They always put him on there. It's Nkrumah and it's Ghana. I remember it like this. Ghana Kwame. Because whichever word you need to memorize, they're going to put his first and last name. Do you understand? They're going to put his first and last name. So I always do Ghana and Kwame. Kwame, Ghana. It's the first one, first independent. Go ahead, 1957. He relied on civil disobedience, nonviolent strikes, and boycotts to oppose the British. Who's lead?
Gandhi.
Gandhi's lead. Nkrumah did the same thing Gandhi did, EBD. Go ahead. He was supported Pan-Africanism, promoting unity of culture and ideas across Africa without European intervention. Get the white people out. Go. He founded the Organization of African Unity, furthering Pan-African goals and encouraging the end of colonialism. Go ahead. I think it still exists. Go back. Yeah, I think it still exists, the OAU. Go ahead. He's the most famous. Nkrumah. And what country are we in, guys? Ghana. Remember, because we have to know them. Remember the alphabetical order? The very beginning of Africa, we have to know these three places. Ghana, it's alphabetical order. Mali, Songhai. Got it? Ghana was the very first one you had to learn, and it's the last one you probably have to learn. Ghana. Go ahead. No. I was thinking that they might have Ghana and Nkrumah together, but they probably don't. They probably want you to know that it's Nkrumah. Well, look, and then a coup d'etat. There's a statue of Nkrumah. He was overthrown in a military coup. Ghana didn't experience a peaceful election again until 2000. How many years is that? 33. 33 years. Guess who had to have been involved? The United States of America or European countries. European. Go ahead. Britain granted independence to Nigeria, but the nation's borders forced three hostile groups together, the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Igbo. Remember that they put competing peoples together? Go ahead. Oh, is that me? The Muslim Hausa tribe dominated the north, and the Christian Igbo and Yoruba tribes controlled the south. Go ahead. Children. The Hausa-controlled government massacred 20,000 Igbo. The Igbo attempted to form a separate country of Biafra. Instead, they were genocide. Civil war between the Hausa and Igbo left over 1 million dead. Genocide. Again, it's just these competing strong-arm factions trying to do what? Take over and be the ones in power. The ethnic and religious tensions seen in Nigeria occurred in many other African nations after decolonization, right up until today in the Sudan and in Yemen. Jomo Kenyatta, that's the other one I told you about, right? So Kwame Nkrumah is in Ghana, and then Jomo Kenyatta, it's even easier because he is Kenya and the independence hero in Kenya. He led the independence movement in Kenya. It's a beautiful country. That's why it was a settler colony, because what? It was gorgeous, right? And people wanted to be there. He represented the Kikuyu people who were driven off their lands by European settlers, specifically British. Go ahead. Oh, go back. When the British missionaries arrived, the Africans had the land and the missionaries had the Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened them, they had the land and we had the Bible. We will give you Christianity, but also what? We're going to take your land. We saw